You're 22 years old, you've never been more than 50 miles from your hometown, and now you're sitting in a thin aluminum shell, 7 miles above Nazi-occupied Europe, where the outside temperature is 60 below zero and hundreds of German fighters want you dead. This is the story of the men who climbed into Boeing B-17 flying fortresses day after day, knowing that statistically, they probably wouldn't survive their tour of duty. This is about the deadliest job in World War II and why these young Americans kept showing up to do it anyway. I'm your pilot today, strap in, we're going up. The B-17 Flying Fortress wasn't just a bomber, it was a symbol. When it first rolled out in 1935, journalists saw the bristling gun positions and immediately called it a flying fortress. The name stuck, but here is what the propaganda posters never showed you. The B-17 was a death trap with wings, for engines that could fail at any moment, oxygen systems that froze at altitude, armor plating that couldn't stop a 20mm cannon shell, and a crew of 10 men packed so tightly together that when one of them died and someone always died, the others had to keep working around the body. Each B-17 carried a crew that functioned like a small family. The pilot and co-pilot up front, both barely old enough to drink. A navigator trying to find his way across a blacked-out continent. A bombardier who'd joined up thinking he'd be a hero, not realizing he'd be dropping explosives on cities. For gunners, waist, tail, ball turret, and top turret scanning the sky for the black dots that meant German fighters. A radio operator and a flight engineer who kept the whole contraption from falling apart at 25,000 feet. The average age? 22. Most of them had never even been in an airplane before they enlisted. Let me take you through a typical mission over occupied Europe, because typical is a word that loses all meaning at 25,000 feet, 0400 hours. You're shaken awake in a freezing Nissen hut somewhere in England. The officer tells you to get breakfast. You know what that means, there's a mission today. You notice they're serving real eggs instead of powdered. That's never a good sign. They only give you real eggs when the mission is going to be bad. By 0600, you're at the briefing. An officer pulls back a curtain, and there it is, a map with a red string running from your base in England, across the channel, deep into Germany. Today's target, ball bearing factories in Schweinfurt. Someone in the back of the room mutters a curse. Schweinfurt is defended by over 200 anti-aircraft guns and 3 fighter groups. You've lost friends to Schweinfurt, 0700 hours. You're suiting up, electric flying suit, because it's going to be minus 60 up there. Flak vest that weighs 30 pounds and won't stop anything bigger than shrapnel. Parachute that you probably won't have time to use. Oxygen mask that smells like rubber and fear. Engine start for 1200 horsepower engines coughing to life, filling the English countryside with thunder. Your B-17 is named Memphis Belle or Lucky Strike or Hell's Angels because if you don't name it something hopeful, you might realize you're about to fly into hell. You're over the channel. 300 B-17 is in tight formation, so close you can see the faces of the men in the bombers next to you. The formation is everything. Alone, a B-17 is easy prey. Together, you create a wall of 50 caliber machine gun fire that German fighters have to respect. But respect doesn't mean they won't try. 1,000 hours. You've crossed into occupied France. Someone calls out, fighters, 2 o'clock high. And then everything happens at once. Messerschmitt 109 seconds dive through the formation like sharks through a school of fish. Your top turret gunner is firing, the brass shell casings raining down through the aircraft. The smell of gunpowder fills the cabin. You can hear the other gunners screaming into the intercom, I got one. They're coming around again. Ball turret to pilot, we've got a fire in number 3 engine. The ball turret gunner, let's talk about him for a second because his job was arguably the worst in the entire war. He's crammed into a plexiglass sphere hanging beneath the aircraft, knees pulled to his chest, surrounded by sky and nothing else. If the plane goes down, he's the last one who can bail out if he can get out at all. If the landing gear gets damaged, he gets crushed on landing. He's completely helpless, completely exposed, and absolutely essential. Now you're over Germany proper. The fighters pull back, but not because they've given up. They're letting the flak batteries have their turn. Flak anti-aircraft fire, thousands of 88mm shells exploding at exactly your altitude, creating clouds of shrapnel that tear through aluminum skin like tissue paper. You can't dodge it, you can't fight it. You just have to fly straight and level toward the target and hope that the next burst has someone else's name on it. The sky turns black with smoke, metal fragments punch through the fuselage. Someone screams that the navigator's been hit, the co-pilot's window shatters, and you keep flying, because the bombs haven't dropped yet. The mission isn't over, 1,130 hours, bombs away. The aircraft lurches upward, suddenly 12,000 pounds lighter. You bank hard, trying to get out of this killing zone as fast as possible. That's when you notice the bomber to your left is on fire. 3 parachutes bloom beneath it before the plane rolls over and begins its death spiral. You count the parachutes, only 3. There were 10 men on that aircraft. Here is the thing about being a B-17 crewman that nobody talked about until after the war. The math was horrifying. In 1943, the average B-17 crew had to fly 25 missions before they could go home. The odds of surviving all 25? 1 in 4, that's right, 75 of bomber crews were either killed, captured, or severely wounded before completing their tour. Some missions had loss rates over 20%. That meant in a single mission, 1 out of every 5 bombers didn't come back. Imagine showing up to work knowing that 1 in 5 of your co-workers won't be there tomorrow. The psychological toll was devastating. Men developed what they called the twitch and involuntary flinch every time they heard a loud noise.